There's one historic night from over 100 years ago that those of us alive today are still aware of, thanks to documentaries, books, and of course, movies. The events and people involved in the sinking of the RMS Titanic on the night of 1912 will continue to be remembered for generations. On that night, Frederick Fleet is remembered today for one haunting moment, spotting the iceberg on a cold night, April 14th, 1912. As one of the lookouts, he was the first to see the danger that would lead to the deaths of over 1,500 people. Fleet was not one of those who perished that night, however, although the remainder of his years would be spent haunted by the experience. Frederick Fleet was born on October 15, 1887 in Liverpool, Lancashire, England. His early years were marked by instability. Abandoned by his parents at a young age, Fleet was raised in foster homes and orphanages, never knowing the comfort of a steady family life. These tough beginnings provided him with limited options and forced him into the working world early. As a teenager, he found work as a deck boy, which marked the start of his career at sea. He first worked on liners out of Liverpool. He moved through the ranks, gaining experience on various ships and eventually becoming a qualified seaman. By 1912, Fleet had been working at sea for several years, including 4 years as a lookout on the RMS Oceanic, when he signed on to the RMS Titanic as a lookout, along with 5 other watchmen. His role was to scan the ocean from the crow's nest, watching for any signs of danger. On the night of April 14, 1912, Fleet and fellow lookout Reginald Lee were on duty when they spotted an iceberg directly ahead of the ship. Fleet rang the warning bell and alerted the bridge with the now famous words, "Iceberg right ahead." The Titanic struck the iceberg shortly after, and within hours it sank in the North Atlantic. After the captain ordered abandoned ship, Fleet was assigned to lifeboat number 6, along with quartermaster Robert Hitchens. Notably, lifeboat number 6 included Margaret Molly Brown, who was one of the voices expressing a desire to return to collect additional passengers who had gone overboard. However, Hitchens, worried that the boat would be overloaded, instead instructed them to row to safety. After the sinking, Fleet testified during the British and American inquiries, describing the limited visibility and lack of binoculars in the crow's nest. During the hearing, he stated if they had been issued binoculars, they would have seen the iceberg in enough time to warn the bridge to turn the ship. However, some historians are divided and believe that even if they had them, given the moonless night and calm waters, they would have not been any use. Fleet continued working at sea for many years after the sinking, first serving on the Titanic's sister ship, RMS Olympic. He then joined the Merchant Marines when the First World War broke out, where he played a dangerous role transporting troops, supplies, and goods across U-boat-infested waters. Records suggest he worked on troop ships and cargo vessels throughout the war, though his exact ship assignments aren't fully preserved in public archives. Between the two wars, he worked in shipyards, most likely Southampton, which was a major hub for British shipbuilding and repairs at the time. This period was relatively quiet for him, and there are few records suggesting he lived privately and avoided the public eye. At the outbreak of World War II, Fleet returned to sea in the Merchant Navy again, performing hazardous convoy duties, again facing the constant threat of German U-boats, but Fleet survived without recorded injury. His later years were marked by financial hardship, and he never used his notoriety for financial gain. Despite his survival, Fleet struggled with the weight of his experience. After the Second World War, he continued to work in shipyards and had to work as a gardener and as a newspaper salesman after his retirement in order to support his family. Accounts describe him as a quiet, solitary figure, avoiding publicity about the Titanic unless approached directly. He lived a modest life and rarely discussed his wartime service or the Titanic in detail, except during the official 1912 inquiries. There was some opportunity for happiness when he met and married Eva Ernestine Legros in 1917. There are no surviving accounts describing how they met, but the two had a daughter named Dorothy, who was born a year after their marriage. Shortly after Christmas on December 28, 1964, his wife, suffering from ill health, died by suicide. The home they lived in was owned by her brother, who evicted Frederick shortly after. Due to his wife's death, his eviction, and a lifetime of survivor's guilt, Fleet fell into a deep depression and hung himself in the garden on January 10, 1965, in Southampton, England. He was 77 years old. For decades, his grave went unmarked, but in 1993, the Titanic Historical Society raised funds to provide a headstone, finally giving recognition to a man whose call from the crow's nest echoed through history.